Hello and welcome back to some more Baldur's Gate 3. So today we are going back to Vanilla BG3 and I'm going to bring you 4 builds that admittedly have been done to death. But what I've never seen is putting all these 4 builds into one party. That's right, this is a party build. And mathematically, this is the most broken party build in Baldur's Gate 3 ever, period. No arguments. Because it takes the most broken feat in the game and gives it to every single party member. So, logic dictates that it must be the most broken party in the game. That's not me saying that, that's logic. So I give you the Tavern Brawlers. So our Tav, or to use their full government name, Tavern Brawler, is a Thief 4, Openhand Monk 8. Next we have Lae'zel, being our Eldritch Knight 6. Wizard, any subclass will be fine except for Bladesinger 6. And we have Shadowheart as a solo class Moon Druid 12 and Karlach as a solo class Giant Barbarian 12. Because all of these builds have been done before, I'm just going to speed run through this. For our tab, your ability score spread should look something like this. You are going to take your first 4 levels into Rogue. At level 4 Rogue, you are going to take Tavern Brawler. You're going to put the +1 from Tavern Brawler into Constitution. You are going to go then multiclass into Monk for your 5th level. At this point in time, you are going to be start chugging down elixirs of heal giant strength like your life depended on it. You are going to fight Auntie Ethel and take her boon. With that +1, you are going to put it into Wisdom, giving you a Wisdom score of 18. At level 8, you are going to take an ability score increase, put that into Wisdom, giving you a Wisdom score of 20. For level 12, you can pick whatever feat you want. I like something like Mobile because at this point in the game, you are a walking explosion with fists and you want to get into their backline as quickly as possible to delete their spellcasters. Then we have Lae'zel, the EK/Wizard. So Lae'zel will be straight to fighter till level 4 where she will pick up Tavern Brawler. Put the +1 from Tavern Brawler into Constitution. At this point in time, Lae'zel will start drinking elixirs of heal giant strength, same as our Tav. Once you get to level 5, you will stop there and multi-class into Wizard. You will get to Wizard 4, where you will take an ability score increase and up your intelligence to 18. Once you get to Wizard 5, pick Counterspell. You must pick Counterspell because there is no other way to learn Counterspell other than picking it during level up. Once you do this, you move back to Fighter to get to Fighter 6 and you get an ability score increase again. Put that into Intelligence, giving you an Intelligence of 20. This is important because Counterspell has been reworked by Larian, so now if a spell is over level 3, you need to do a check to ensure that you counterspell. Having a higher intelligence allows us to counterspell more effectively as an Eldritch Knight/Wizard. Again, pick any subclass other than Bladesinger because Bladesinger messes up your ability to wear heavy armor or wield any other weapons other than what is on the Bladesinger list. The next 2 are solo classes, so they're fairly easy. Shadowheart the Moon Druid at level 4, again you are taking Tavern Brawler and putting the +1 into Con. At levels 8 and 12, it's an ability score increase, pumping your wisdom up to 18 and 20 respectively. For Karlach, it's a little bit more complicated. You are going to go all the way up to level 4, again taking Tavern Brawler. At level 8, you put an ASI into your strength, bringing it up to 20. Then You talk to the creepy drow lady at Moonrise Towers, bring Astarion with you, and then you drink the potion, bringing your strength score to now 22. Very important. Do not respect Karlach after you have drank this potion. This +2 will disappear permanently. You cannot get it back. Never respect any character who has drank the potion from the creepy drow lady after they've drank it, because you lose the +2 permanent. And after that, the feat at +12 is whether at level 12 is whatever you really want it to be. I would pick something that either buffs her up for mobility or pumps up her hit points. But what makes Tavern Brawler so broken that giving it to each one of our characters makes this the most mathematically broken party comp ever to exist in Baldur's Gate 3? Simply put, what Tavern Brawler does, the rework that Larian did to the feat, is it takes bounded accuracy, the governing principle of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, gives it a wedgie, and steals its lunch money. Bounded accuracy in 5e is a game mechanic that puts a boundary on the bonus that can be applied to a dice roll by a player. Now, this bonus at the highest levels of play, so level 17 to 20, is roughly about 16 to 20 max. That is using your proficiency bonus of +6 at level 17 and 20. Because ability scores are quote-unquote capped in 5e to 20, the maximum bonus you can get from that is +5. Weapon enchantments are also usually capped at +3 in D&D 5e, so you have that. If you're using archery, that gives you a +2 bonus. With Bless, that gives you an extra 1d4. So that in total, again, not everyone uses archery and not everyone will get Blessed, but this is the highest we can get. We are looking at a bonus of 16 to 20. And anyone who's played high-level Dungeons & Dragons knows that even this 16 to 20 is broken, enough as it is. What Larian did, when they saw this, they said, hold my beer. And they reworked Tavern Brawler so that the portion of it that the player had most control over, which is the strength score, because of all the things that they've put in the game that can increase your strength score, they've doubled that component. And that means my Tavern Brawler Monk at level 12 has a bonus to hit of between 22 to 28. Because after drinking the elixir of Cloud Giant Strength, I have a +8 modifier for my strength. Tavern Brawler doubles that to +16. I have a proficiency bonus of a +4. I have gotten a 1d4 because I bought the naked statue of myself, because of course, why wouldn't you? And then just say I have Bless on. My bonus to hit ranges between 22 to 28. For all intents and purposes, I cannot miss unless it's a nat 1. 95% accuracy. And that is why Tavern Brawler is broken. It removes pretty much any uncertainty of the dice roll and puts a certainty on because of all the bonuses that it provides. The damage is great, but even without the damage, with all the things that you can apply because you can hit something, that's what makes Tavern Brawler broken. The only thing that comes even remotely close is the robe that Alfira gives you after you save all of the tieflings from Moonrise Towers. And only if you give that to a Sorlock, and you mostly use Eldritch Blasts, and they get Agonizing Blast on top of all of that. They can now keep up with your damage, but they still can't keep up with your accuracy. They will miss more often than you will because that robe does not affect their to hit chance, it only affects their damage. Your Tavern Brawler affects both to hit chance and damage. Again, this is why it is so broken and why any group that takes advantage of this effect across the board is mathematically the most overpowered group in all of Baldur's Gate 3. So just how broken is it? So Antiethel makes a deal with me on the second round. Grim goes down in round 2. It would have been round 1, but Karlach whiffed her last shot. The spectator doesn't even get a turn. The bullet can't escape to annoy me later. The shambling mound is in shambles. Raphael is so stun-locked, I don't even bother looking at the obelisks. I just wail on him for 5 turns while he lies there laughing. Ansur gets answered. Seriously. At this point, what I'm showing you here, I know I'm gonna win. So I just want to get the achievement that knocks him out of the sky. I don't know how to do it. I didn't do it on this run, and I don't know how to do it because he's resistant to everything. How do you get that achievement? Please send help. So since all the builds have been covered, what I really want to focus on is how this party comp evolves across the tiers of play. I've mentioned the tiers of play before, and what I mean about that is how the game changes and how you play changes depending on the level you are. And I've split it down like this. Levels 1 to 4 is you surviving the game. You are using all the healing potions that you have. You're long resting after every fight. You're using up all your spell slots to cast every single spell that you've got in your arsenal just to finish the fight and survive it. Yeah, this is what levels 1 to 4 are all about in Dungeons and Dragons, and what anyone who plays BG3 is experiencing at levels 1 to 4. These are the hardest levels because you just don't have the resources and abilities to play the game the way you want it to. And then we have tier 2. This is levels 5 through to 8. This is when you start playing the game. This is the majority of the game, essentially. You have enough abilities and resources to play the game in its own terms and on your own terms. You can fight back. You can still die if you make boneheaded decisions, but it's not something that is guaranteed to happen if you don't use up every single spell slot or every single potion that you have. And then tier 3 is levels 9 through to 12, and you are spanking the game. You have become Death, Destroyer of Worlds. You own this game. You have to make some very, very big stuff ups to lose at this point in time. And now those stuff ups may be because you don't know a few things, but just because you don't know doesn't change the fact that you not knowing has caused you the game. For example, the Ansur fight. Spoilers ahead. If you didn't know that making your party immune to the fear effect is necessary for this fight, then you have lost the fight, and if you're playing on honor mode, lost your honor mode run. It's that simple. Knowing the mechanics of the game is part and parcel of this game. If your party was not balanced to the point where you had this capability to do this mid-fight, then yeah, you've lost. Um, it's it's that type of game. Um, and yeah, it's what again makes this team comp especially uh, really fun to play because it evolves throughout those tiers. How you're playing your Tav at tier 1 is so different from how you're playing it at the end of the game that it's your if I have been looking back at uh, my gameplay recordings and it's just blows my mind. Well, for one, you're playing as a rogue at the first 4 levels as your tab, and you are just deleting everything that moves that is standing in front of you at level 12. So it's again, that's what I want to concentrate on. So tier 1, levels 1 through to 4. This covers the tutorial, so escaping the Nautiloid and the very early parts of Act 1. Your tab will be a rogue at this point, essentially a rogue. You got no, you want to go rogue first, so you'll be sneaking around. You'll be using a crossbow to get your sneak attack rather than going into melee. You want to use a ranged weapon. Trust me, you do not want to be the rogue that sneaks in and gets a sneak attack, but then has no way out. Um, Shadowheart the Druid is actually the better tank at this point in time, rather than Karlach the Barbarian, because the she has the bear form, and the bear form can just soak up damage and not affect her HP. And she has 2 of those. She has 2 pools of HP that she can pretty much use up to the most and then come back to her own HP before she dies. So she is the better tank. Um, Karlach and Lae'zel, your barbarian and your fighter, are essentially your DPS at this point in time. They're not going to be throwing because until you hit level 4, which is the very end of this tier, so it's a lot of melee, and again, it's just about surviving. You just want to get to level 5. And tier 2, levels 5 through to 8. So this mostly covers the very end of the Goblin camp, and but mostly it happens in the other 2 areas of Act 1, which is the Underdark and the Githyanki Kresh. Your Tav at this point in time has now become a frontliner, but more of a hit and run DPS rather than someone who is a tank and stands toe to toe with the enemies. Karlach at this point in the game is an amazing crowd control barbarian because they can just throw enemies willy nilly, and I enjoy doing that at this point in the game. Um, Shadowheart gets her owlbear form at this stage, and again, amazing tanking potential and DPS as well because of the very high strength score, which again, Tavern Brawler doubles. And Lae'zel, this is when she starts moving into her wizard levels, and she is consistent, not spectacular as the EK thrower isn't in terms of damage, but it's consistent damage. So the fighter throwers are consistent in their damage rather than spectacular, as opposed to the giant barbarian, which is just the spectacular throw damage, but consistency is not so much. It's namely because they just get the 2 throws, whereas the fighter has action surge and can do it pretty much after every short rest. And tier 3, levels 9 through to 12. Your tab is now a god. This is also when your magical fists as your tab come in, but only if you take a visit to Withers. So originally your level split was Rogue 4, Monk 5. Once you hit level 9, you want to visit Withers and reduce your rogue levels down to 3 and increase your monk levels up to 6. Because at level 6, your monk fists become magical. And that overcomes a lot of the resistances that you have been experiencing in Act 2, which is why your damage has been very low until this point in time. Once you get to monk level 6 and rogue level 3, you are a god. You have 4 attacks per round without using any resources. That you have to do it this way though. You have to use your action to punch, use your first bonus action to punch again, then you use your second attack punch, and then you can use your bonus action punch again. If you don't do it in that order, you miss out on one of those bonus action punches. So just bear that in mind. Uh, Karlak is now the main tank and backup DPS. Uh, at these levels, Karlak is a better tank than Shadowheart, simply because that is what she's meant to be doing, and she now has the hit pool to be very, very good at that, as well as she has a few abilities that make her very good at putting distance with enemies. The Titan's Kick, I believe it's called, is great for this. Um, Now, for Lae'zel, she is now your counterspeller. This is the reason why we gave her wizard levels to gain access to counterspell, which is the weak point of this group. They don't have counterspell until pretty much Act 3, which is arguably when you need it the most. It's useful earlier, but you really, really need it in Act 3. And Lae'zel gets it just in time for Act 3. And that's what you basically use her as. You keep her in the back line, uh, throws the Dwarven thrower from there, and will use Counterspell when necessary. Now, the biggest change is Shadowheart. At this stage in the game, levels 9 through to 12, you are going to start noticing that having Shadowheart as a full caster and all of the spells that come with Druid to be far more useful than just having another melee person. You start having Shadowheart stay in her human form more and more and less in her owlbear form. The owlbear form is still very, very good in terms of backup damage, and in case her health gets down really low, it's still really great to have. But you start finding she has better utility as a caster rather than just melee. I will also point out that if you are a Tavern Brawler Moon Druid, do not ever use any of the shapes in combat that utilize dexterity or have a very low strength score, because Tavern Brawler did not used to work on animal forms. It did not. Larian pushed through a fix to allow Tavern Brawler to apply to animal forms. How they did this is that they forced Tavern Brawler's calculation to apply to every single animal form, which means if you are using an animal form that has a low strength score, it will apply that low strength score to your attack and damage rolls as top of your dexterity. The spider is, I believe, one instance, as well as the raven. Um, these use their dexterity and have a very, very bad strength score. So you're going to see, if you check the combat page where it says all your combat rolls, you're going to see the negatives there from your very bad strength and scores from those forms. So again, just to keep that in mind, haven't really seen that touched upon by a lot of creators out there. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you are a Moon Druid. Don't use the forms that have a low dex if you've taken Tavern Brawler. Owlbear is the best form anyway, so you're good to go. And that's it. That is the most broken team comp in all of Baldur's Gate 3. What do you think? Is there anything more broken? Logic says no, but hey, if you want to argue with Logic, feel free to do so down below. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Cheers.
Cleaning. This could be a lovely little house. And I can hardly leave. After all, who would ever want to think of hell without hope?